Looks like there's a disco party going on up there. Hey, good morning guys. We are going to start a brand new adventure today in the 48 Fleet Master. We need to do a steering gear rebuild. It has been leaking very badly for very long by the looks of it. So, we're going to remove it, rebuild it, and replace it. Okay? And I know at least one of you in the past has wished I had a video on that, so it's worth it right there, right? So we're going to dive right in and see if we can get this thing taken care of. Let's do it. All right, come on, let's go. Sure. Now, if you just pardon me a moment, our first operation here is going to be removing the steering wheel. Now you remember, this is of course the Fleet Master. If you have the style, if you'll remember that when we went through the Style Master, those horn buttons unscrew. You remember that? This is just a pull-out deal, kind of like a more modern style. I hope my puller gets narrow enough for this. We'll find out, but I've got to take off the nut and dig in there. The 1970s SK is on the job. 3/4 socket. Should be what you need. There we go. Get this over here. I think there's a washer. Yep. I'll go get my puller. Ooh, I don't know. This is going to be close. They, of course, had a special tool for this back in the day that I, of course, don't have. Yeah, 5/16, like normal. I think we should be able to get it, though. I don't know if I have room for my little foot piece or not. Get on there. There you go. You know, you have enough length and you can get enough deflection no matter how far off you are, right? Maybe spoke too soon. Try it without the washers. Here we go. Okay, 9/16. And there we are. Okay, I'll put my puller back away. Alright, there are nuts. Whoa! There are nuts up under the dash here, holding this U-bolt, whatever you want to call it. They call this what you would normally call the steering column. They call it the mast jacket. And you know, they like shipping terms, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, they call that the mast jacket, and the bracket that holds it to the dash. And there are nuts up under there. Got to get those off. Speedometer is actually very beautiful. Looks like we got some black crud we need to scrape off. We're going to be doing the gauges, but I don't think I'll even touch that. So despite a guy's best efforts, we have one of these. You know, unfortunately. Yeah, I was taking it easy, going back and forth. Use penetrating oil on the threads, the best that I could jam my head and the can up in there anyway. And it just wasn't having it. And I can tell you the issue right now. We got water penetration. That's why the gauges look like they do. And unfortunately, you just got a trough of water in the dash, bottom of the dash, when that happens, and then things like that happen. So, special U-bolt, I will definitely have to cut that off, straighten it out, weld on some new threads, make it new again, because we could find one, I'm very sure, but you know, it takes 10 minutes to fix, basically. So that's what we'll do. Anyway, I'm going to continue on with the steering gear. Ran to my dad-in-law's business and borrowed these Posi-Lock caged pullers. They are absolutely the last word in pullers, I'm telling you. They are awesome. 100% the best, hands down, no doubt in my mind. Best designed pullers in existence. They are very expensive, but if you've never used one, you know, compared to that junk, that floppy junk that just doesn't work, get on eBay. Vevor, I think, sells them. I don't know about Harbor Freight, but even just get a cheap piece and try it out for yourself. Maybe you can get lucky, find one in a pawn shop or a flea market or something, but yeah. They are the real deal. No. There she is. Okay. All right, let's get stuck in, shall we? You're in for a proper dressing down. Okay. So we're just going to start taking our sector shaft housing out. Get all the hardware out of here. The grease is flying. I took this outside and tried to pressure wash it. Sort of worked a little bit. Okay, our gasket's 100% shot. That's all right. Get our sector shaft out here. Bearings feel great. We'll know more when we clean it up. Got some water in it. This thing had a bad leak, as we already knew, but yeah, so very little lubricant that I'm seeing. I'm sure the seal let it all come out in the past, and the leak was bad enough that just a little bit of spraying with the pressure washer let quite a bit of water in, actually. So okay, now I'm going to try to get my worm shaft sleeve out of there. I think that's 1/2 inch. Let's see if I can get this mounting bolt out of the way here. There we go. Okay. Pre-bent screwdriver here for us. Just breaking it more. It's fine. I wonder if I should hit it with a chisel. Well, I brought everything home so that I'll be able to use the press and can use my vise a little bit easier and so forth. First thing I'm going to do here is we got to extract some races, some outer races. And that's a little difficult given the shape. You just can't, it's very, very difficult to get to the back side of this one. A guy could probably use a blind hole race puller. But then this part, it's pretty small, and to mount it in a vise and start hitting it with a slide hammer, you're just gonna mess threads up. You know, you're gonna mess this surface up that your steering column or the mast you know, goes over. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut some slots, just kind of cut back the cast in here just a little bit. Just make two notches in here directly opposite of each other, so that then I can come in there with a screwdriver or a long thin punch, and then just back and forth tap that race out. Things are even worse on the car. Man, they're a bear. They had a good outer fit, you know. So now, when an engineer deals you a dirty hand, a mechanic has to respond in kind, right? We got another blind hole-ish. I mean, neither one of them have exactly been a blind hole, but you can't get to the back side without having to deal with something. This one's got is set in this larger diameter that you see in the casting here, yeah, we do have a plug, but you still can't get to the back side of the race. And I know you can't even see it yet, but it's in there. So we've got to go to the blind hole puller. See if we can get this son of a gun out of there. Well, good morning. Happy new day, you know. Unfortunately, some of my footage was lost. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing half the time with this stuff anyway, but we're just gonna have to make up for it, right? I had some problems with my worm gear, and I would only admit that among friends. But on the top end of our worm gear, the inner race, which is part of the gear, it's machined in there. We got a lot of pitting, and our outer race that gets pressed into the gearbox portion there had a lot of pitting. Now on steering, you know, in a gearbox, is that going to be a big problem? You probably notice some roughness in the steering. You know, maybe you find a hard spot in the 360 degrees. You'd notice a little rough spot when you're turning a corner or whatever. But would I call it dangerous? Probably not. But be that as it may, I decided to get a good worm gear. Now if you get online and you look up worm gears for 1940s Chevrolets, you're going to come up with a whole lot of options, but they're for Fords. Either that means the Fords are way more popular to retain their steering gears, or they fail a whole lot more commonly. But anyway, I found this dude on eBay, and I'm hoping it is the same. And I'm hoping, well, I don't know that it's any better now that I'm looking at it. So this guy is our original, and there in the reflection you can see the pitting. Well, they sold me one that is even worse than the one I already have. That's annoying. Well, what does a guy do now? I guess I'll just run with the original. A guy could probably put that in a lathe and clean it up just a little bit. There's still a lot of, more than half the height is a good surface, bearing surface yet. So, and like I said, it's steering. I don't know what I want to do. Be that as it may, if you need to change one of these out, I'll show you a special tool. It's called a 5-foot piece of 3/4 pipe. Now I'm not going to go through the whole thing of doing this, but that comes up against the end of your inner race there, and then you just kind of do that, you know, probably get a block of wood, and the gravity just does the work for you. So anyway, gee, Well, I guess I found something else a guy needs to manufacture. I need to go into the Chevrolet worm gear business. Take a pretty slick machinist to get that done, I'm thinking. Alright, races are in, bearings are in for the worm shaft, worm gear. Now we need to remove all end play, is really all the book wants you to do. All end play in the worm gear bearings. I can see where I started with a chisel mark here from separating the clamp. So I think we'll start with that. Turning, all end play is gone. I'm going to loosen it let's loosen it a quarter and see what happens. Still no end play. There we have some. Just slight end play. Little more. Sure does roll nice. There may be it's almost indistinguishable. Just a little bit more. Yeah, I'm going to call that good. free and easy. So we're going to lock it down there, and that bolt is one of these. So a guy ended up trimming about 1/4 inch off the gasket. I just snippy, and then, you know, overlapped, saw how much I needed to remove and cut it. You know how it is, a lot of times your gaskets are a little too large and you got to put pressure on them to get them to where they need to go. But this tight a circle and 1/4 inch extra, it just was not going to stay in place. I was trying to, you know, put weight on it and shove it into place with the scraper. Nah, that wasn't working. But we have the mechanic's best friend, Permatex. It forms its own gasket, right? So I just glued up the ends on all surfaces really well where I cut it. And I have no doubt it'll be just fine. Alright, we need to make our adjustments between our worm and our sector gear, and I actually have no adjustment done on the sector itself yet, but I can't do that until all my bolts are tight. I could tighten them down where they are, do that. We're just going to try this. If we need to go back and forth, then we will. But we need to find dead center of your steering operation, where your steering wheel would, where you're going straight and your steering wheel would be level. So we're going to count the turns, put a mark on there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 and a little less than a half. One, 2 and 1/4, and I'll come back a little bit. Okay, so that should be the center of our operation. All my bolts are loose. I should probably tighten them up just a little bit. Alright, so we get on our eccentric bolt here. That's not the right size. Gotta take all tension off of it. See, even there, I don't even feel any lash. I would say that's all the way loose. and my sectors. I can go a little tighter, I think, but I'm going to start with it there, tighten everything down. Then let's do our sector gear only, and then see how we are there. Alright, all the cover bolts are tightened down, including the eccentric one. We turn really easy and we have no play, so far so good. Now I'm going to take all the slop out of the sector shaft. You can see we have quite a bit. Is that going to change things? It very well may. We'll find out. I'm going to put some oil on the inside end of our adjusting screw here. Basically, this is just making a solid connection between the case and the shaft, you know. So according to the manual, we want to go all the way in till it's tight up against the shaft. Make sure that bottomed out. Yeah, that's nice and tight. And we're going to loosen it till it turns free. And then we're going to tighten it again till it lightly touches. We're still steering nice and easy. We got no end play, so I think we're good. Hold it right there. 15/16 wrench. Turned it a little bit, turn it back. Okay. Honestly, our contact between the two gears, it's still spinning really nice. No slop, so I'm going to consider it good to go. Alright, we're going to throw this back in. Just be sure your clamp is either on the steering gear side or on the mast jacket side. Either way, I better open that up actually. It being a little stubborn. Alright, now up through the bottom. No, not through the control arm. Goodness sakes. How do I do this so you can see? I guess I get in there. Everything's in the way of everything else. Okay. The bearing on the top end, there we go. There we go. Alright. That. Turn that. And somewhere in there. Or if my pitman will hold it. Alright. Go get our hardware and hang that dude on there. Alright, we just want to make sure that our jacket, all our linkage going off of this U-bolt, since we didn't touch that, we want to make sure that's level going across, just kind of centered and back to where we started. And that's looking pretty good. Now when I cleaned up, degreased, and just kind of sprayed down the inside of this, I just painted this all black. I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, someone out there that actually knows, I would assume that this was brown. They would have painted this all at the same time that they painted the inside portion of it, so this probably should be the interior brown. If you want to do a correct restoration, I need to straighten out some bent linkages here. I think this is why we weren't getting all our gears the day I loaded it. We got stuff to do, but for now I'm going to tighten this down. I'm going to put my pitman arm back on. I'm going to fill it with gear oil, and then I guess I'm going to call it done. So I really twisted and broke this up at the beginning of the video, and I just replaced the one leg of it with a bolt, welded that on, cleaned up all the threads, found replacement hardware. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall that. I am not going to reinstall the steering wheel at this time in this video. The fact that we are going to soon be redoing all the wiring, as well as pulling the gauges out and redoing the faces of them, that's just better left out of the way. But I'll get this hung up once again, and that's it. Well, there you go, guys. We got the old Saginaw back in the car, and it should be doing really well. Like I said, I'm not going to put the steering wheel on yet. We got gauges to do, we've got wiring to do. Pretty soon we're going to get involved in the kingpins, get that going. I don't know, what do you guys want to see? Now on old Greenie, the previous 48, you may remember it took me, I'm guessing, until the door panel video to get so fed up with the door wanting to close on me the whole time. I finally got in there and took apart the door holder opener. I can't remember what you call it. In that case, there was deep grooves worn in the little ramps that grab the bump on the rod, and we just welded those up, filed them smooth, and it worked beautifully. This one, the little ramps, the springs, the mechanism is stuck, seized up. So I'm just going to take a little bit, get that going so I'm not frustrated with the door the entire rest of the project. Right now I've got a screwdriver jammed in there, so that's why the door's open. But I'm going to be a little more proactive, do that this time. Otherwise, I think we're done here, right? Okay, so thank you so much for joining me, guys. Once again, I really appreciate it. God bless you, folks. We'll see you on the next one.
The old Saginaw. Get some Polish sausage.